Hey everybody, welcome to Disrupt TV, and we're in the green room today. I'm live here from Newark Airport, which is an amazing place. Maybe, just kidding. Well, hey, welcome everybody here, and of course with my amazing co-host Vala Afshar, and of course Elle, our producer. So I'm going to do some quick introductions. I'm going to ask our guests, where are you coming in from today, and more importantly, what are you talking about? And a very, very quick segment. So Rich, where are you coming in from? What are you talking about?
Thanks, Ray. Coming in from balmy Chicago, Illinois today.
Woo.
And love to talk a little bit about how people think, plan, and act strategically to drive their business.
Very, very cool. Very, very important in terms of strategy. And we've got Marga. Marga, where are you coming in from? What are we talking about?
Hi, Ray. Coming in from Amsterdam, so far away. And I'm going to talk, hopefully, a lot about my new book, just launched, Tech for Good.
We need tech for good in a time of all these conversations. Something good has to come about. So thank you for being here. Joe, where are we coming in from? What are we talking about?
I'm calling in from just South Florida. It's a little bit warmer than Rich, but sunny South Florida, so just north of Miami. Here to talk a little bit about store experience and kind of the associate experience.
It's really interesting. Everybody from South Florida says sunny South Florida. And you notice the turn, Vala? Well, this is great. I'm going to turn it back to Elle, and we'll kick off the show.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on Disrupt TV. My name is Vala Afshar. I'm the Chief Evangelist at Salesforce and your co-host for the next hour. We welcome you to follow us on X at Disrupt TV Show. Send us your questions and our guests to our guests, and we'll hopefully be able to answer you using hashtag DisrupTV. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-host. He's Ray Wang, CEO and founder of Constellation Research. He's the best-selling author of Everybody Wants to Rule the World. I see Ray on TV just about every day. He's a business and tech contributor on Fox Business, Yahoo Finance, Bloomberg, and CNBC. In my humble opinion, he's one of the top futurists to follow on Twitter at RWANG0. Welcome, Ray Wang, to Disrupt TV.
Hey, thanks a lot. I'm here with Vala Afshar, the Chief Digital Evangelist for Salesforce. He's also the author of the best-selling book, which I don't have in my hand, Boundless. And more importantly, it's talking about unlimited business. It's the mindset. And of course, you can get it on Amazon. And executives around the world follow every one of his inspirational and insightful tweets. You can see him keynoting, speaking live at Salesforce events and other events around the world. And more importantly, you can follow him on business TV outlets like Bloomberg, and of course, his insightful posts on ZDNet. But of course, it's not about us. It's about our amazing guests. And every week we kick off with someone amazing. Who do we have today?
Not just someone, we get the best and brightest CEOs to come on Disrupt TV, and there's no exception here. Joe Corbin, CEO of Jumpmind. Jumpmind spurs business transformation with cutting-edge software built for speed, quality, and flexibility. As the Chief Executive Officer and President of Jumpmind, Joe is responsible for sustainable and responsible growth within the business. Under his leadership, Jumpmind has been hyper-focused on customer outcomes and success. He leads a team of passionate ex-retailers and engineers whose primary mission is solving retailers' challenges in the most innovative ways. Joe has spent his career in retail with prior role at Oracle Retail in Solution Consulting and Abercrombie Fitch in-store systems, where he ran large multinational POS projects. Welcome, Joe, to Disrupt TV.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Nice to see you both.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, we're really excited to have you here. And more importantly, right, this is the best season, the best time of year for commerce. And of course, one of the biggest things that often becomes a troubling piece is the return season afterwards. So one of the biggest interesting, the hits on margin is always going to be that return management piece. What are people doing up front to minimize return, which is like the hardest, most complicated logistical part of the back end of commerce?
Yeah, it's a huge challenge, in this time of year, especially. I think you see retailers struggling with it. Obviously, there's the margin hit, Ray, that you mentioned. There's potentials for fraud, of course, that affect retailers during this time of year. And then there's the seasonal aspect of returns, right? I bought something during the holiday season. If I don't return it until the spring and I'm an apparel retailer, what do I do with that, right? So it causes tons of challenges. I think from a fraud perspective, it's really about providing the ability to have visibility into returns. We've done some of this work with Petco, actually. So they're one of our clients, and we started working with them to help them with returns fraud that they were having with a legacy POS solution, and leverage some microservices to give the stores visibility to the returns, but also give them the ability to set up rules and enforce the rules of the POS themselves. So that's kind of like how you can handle the fraud side of it. I think the reality of returns, though, just generally, is that they're not slowing down. You'll see that consumers are voting with their wallets as it relates to return policies that retailers have. Like a stricter policy means customers are less likely to shop there. I know just as a consumer myself, right? You buy something, it doesn't fit. Like if I have to pay for shipping or go out of my way to get that back to the retailer, I'm less likely to purchase from them again. So, my view is like brick and mortar retailers have the advantage here, because a return in store really gives them the capability or the ability to sell, right?
Or buy online, return in store, right? In those kind of scenarios, or buy online and minimize returns because better configuration, right, comes into play.
Yeah, you want to try and find a way to get away from bracketing as much as you can, right?
Yes.
Like everybody's buying, I'm a medium typically, but then there's some brands like I'm not sure. So you buy a medium and a large. And I think you'll see a lot of online merchants are using widgets on their website to help you kind of dial in what the right sizing is based upon other customer experiences and those sorts of things, which I think can really bring that down, the likelihood of it. But for me, the one last thing I'll say on this, I think it's about seeing the forest of the trees on returns for retailers this holiday season. Is don't look as a return experience as a negative. I think it's an opportunity, and every opportunity that you have to impact a consumer or one of your customers, I think you need to take advantage of it.
I want to expand on the discussion of minimizing returns, but also talk about the National Retail Foundation, NRF. I believe is the largest retail conference in the U.S. It's happening, I believe, January of 2024. And I'm always anxious. What are the themes? What will be the topics? I know that just during Cyber Week, my company looked at about 1.5 billion transactions, commerce transactions. And we saw for the first time very close to $1 in $5 of spend, which added up to $51 billion of digital spend, was impacted by AI-powered recommendations. Yeah. So AI played a role in terms of personalized offerings that helped lessen abandoned shopping carts and equate to nearly $1 in $5 of commerce revenue. So I'm sure AI is going to be a big topic at NRF, but I'm thinking like with computer visioning and abilities to, again, you said widgets, but there are technology you can embed now that perhaps can use machine learning, computer visioning, even build into chatbots recommendations so that you can have your customers make more informed decision. In your case, medium size vary by brand, right, and guide us so that we can minimize that friction of buying something that just doesn't fit. What do you anticipate we're going to hear a lot about at NRF, and what are some of your company's narrative at the conference?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think you're definitely right about AI. I think you're going to see AI is pervasive in everything, and everybody's talking about it. I think you're going to see that for sure. And one of the areas that's interesting, if you think, so my company, is focused on POS and kind of the in-store experience, and where we see a potential for AI, and some retailers are starting to look at it and find use cases for it, is really around this idea of manager and associate productivity, right? I was doing a store visit recently with one of our customers, and I had a conversation with the store manager, and she was struggling with basically it's her and one other person working in the store, and they're covering different zones within that store. So she's supposed to be at the front, associates in the back, they're handling returns, whatever it might be. And the communication between them is challenging, right? Because manager's got to leave, walk to the back. Now you've got the entire front of the store. It's a fraud issue. Somebody walks by and grabs a handful. It's customer service issue, those sorts of things. So we as a company are looking at ways, how do I put more tools in place to allow in-store communication, right? So like, let me just authorize that return remotely, or in the front of the store, that manager where she stands. But I think you're even seeing retailers like Walmart start to look at using AI and computer vision to the point at looking at shelves and saying, hey, like, let me not have associates looking for work. Let me tell them what they need to do. They're doing it with spills. Like, okay, if something's spilled in aisle 17, like, let me tell an associate, go to aisle 17 and clean that up. So we're taking it in and looking and saying, how can we stop giving managers and associates information? How can we start telling them what they need to do, or helping give them guidance on what they should be doing?
So prescriptive use of analytics. It's graduating from descriptive, diagnostic, predictive to prescriptive, where you're prescribing the action that the store associate should consider executing in order to optimize the customer experience or inventory or whatever it may be, to, again, productivity and overall experience. So that's great. That's
it, exactly. That's it. And I think traditionally in the store world, it's been very descriptive. Your sales are X, or you're under plan. Like, okay, what am I supposed to do about that? Right. I think it's giving them information about, okay, you're under plan, but here's the things based on trends that we're seeing that would actually help you reach, if it's total items per a transaction, or if it's total sales in a day, or whatever those sorts of things are. Because I think what you'll find is that, the research is out there that store associates oftentimes don't feel like they have enough information, and customers come into a store and feel like they're smarter than the associate. Yeah. So we want to empower the associate to give as much information as we can so they can be successful.
Joe, do you think combination of sensors or computer visioning will allow stores and staff to apply, I don't have a term for it, like dynamic zoning, where you actually can monitor traffic, foot traffic in the store, and it may be the new Nike shoe is changed the dynamic where people are taking more rights versus lefts when they come in the store, and now you may want to change zones based on real-time analysis of where the interest is coming into the store.
It's a good question, a good point. There's newer technologies out there, and one of the brands we work with is doing some proof of concepts on one. Basically, you're using RFID and computer vision that is able to it's able to spot an item that's been picked up, how long it's been held for, if it's been placed back down, if it's been moved, those sorts of things, which are super interesting, right?
Really?
That's basically what you get on an e-commerce experience, because you can see how long someone's been on a page. But historically, in the non-digital space inside of a store, it's like you don't have any way to know that sort of information. So taking that and giving it to an associate and saying, yeah, focus in this area based on traffic makes a lot of sense.
It'll be like a 5-second route on food and a 10-second rule on the stuffed animals. Just what you're saying. So, but that is great tech, right? We're talking a little about AI here, a little bit on computer vision, and of course, what else is going on in the return site. What are the trends that you're seeing? I mean, thumbs up, thumbs down, metaverse, up, down, middle.
Yeah, unknown at this point. I think it's middle at best. In my opinion.
So a digital, when you say metaverse, you mean like a digital twin of a store where you can get deeper analytics, or I just want to, for my clarity.
Yeah, no. I'm thinking about, like, what does it mean for companies actually creating the brand experience online, right? Okay. And the digital twin will actually happen as well if you're trying to kind of run through the store, but it's really all of some of the metaverse commerce models that were in place.
And I wonder when point of sale will include crypto. Like, when can I go to a Walmart and buy using Ethernet? I'm sorry, Ethernet, Ethereum.
Yeah, we have a partner that provides it.
Really?
Buy in and pay with Bitcoin and those sorts of things. I think the reality is that the average consumer doesn't. So it doesn't take off. But I think all that stuff's very bleeding edge. But I think you'll start to see components of those win and actually make it into the retail kind of environment. I think some of the other interesting. Oh, go ahead, Ray. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Good. So you're saying.
I was going to say some of the other areas that I think what you're going to see trend-wise occur just over the holiday season generally is, I think it's a bit going to become a consumer referendum on the retailers that are winning or losing the store space. And obviously that's where we cover at Jumpmind. I think what you see is a lot of retailers have old kind of broken systems that cause difficult experience for consumers. And I think consumers have caught on, right? They understand, they know the stores that provide the experiences they expect. Like, buy online, pick up in store. That's an expectation. It's not something extraordinary anymore. Being able to tap to pay is an expectation. And I'll tell you a story. The other day I was at the gym. I left and I was driving home, and my wife had asked me to pick something up at the store. So I go to a very large retailer that we would all know. And I got out of the car, started walking to the front door, and I just don't bring my wallet to the gym and I can tap to pay everywhere. And at Whole Foods, I can use my palm to pay now. So I walked to the front and I remembered they don't have tap to pay. So it was irritating, right? So I got to go back into my car, and I drove out of my way to go to a different store to get the same item. So to me, it's like, that's a ton of friction. And if your competitors offer it and you don't, you're going to lose customers. So I think that's a bit of what is really trending as it relates to the store experience and thinking about the holiday, shopping time.
Got it.
I like the fact that ultimately you're pointing to the less friction, the better experience. So give me back time while I'm in store and make sure I walk out without having to come back because of wrong fit or whatever there would be. So it's really delivering value at the speed of need, which means deliberately removing friction as much as you can.
Yeah.
And some friction maybe can be good. As an advisor, you may want to help me make a more informed decision. So I may stay a bit longer, but I now learn more about the products you have. So it's interesting. Where do you see point of sale like 5-10 years from now? I mean, let's put our futurist hat on. Where's your company Jumpmind going 5 years from now?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. There's a lot of new technology, obviously, in the POS space and just in stores. And you think of Just Walk Out and some of the stuff you see around around those type of C stores that would offer those sorts of things. I think just at a broader level, that what's very clear about the store experience is that retailers have put a lot on the associate, and the store associate has really gone through and been asked to do a ton of things. And it's been accelerated by digital transformations and things like the pandemic, of course. But the way it's been done has made it really difficult for the store. Like, you go to a retailer and they've got a device that does this thing and a device that does this thing. I was talking to one recently that told me that they have 32 apps that their associates use. That's
lovely.
Super complex.
Tap.
Yeah.
Like SpaceX uses 32 apps to go to, go into space. Yeah, right.
So I think that it's really about finding ways to simplify what the store is asked to do and how they do it. Because at the end of the day, I think, a retailer expects that they're providing an omni-channel experience, whatever that experience might be. But the reality on the ground is that the associate isn't offering it to their customers because it's so complicated. So for us, we think it's all about this idea of a single pane of glass for the associate. Give them one device, compose all of the experiences, even if they come from third-party technology providers or in-house, compose it all into one omni strategy that the retailer is also providing, and then focus, really on UX, right? I think these days with apps and the way that we use our phones and tablets, I, like anybody, if I download an app and it doesn't work, in 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes, I delete it. So this whole world of making things complicated, you shouldn't need a training manual in store, and for us, we think that really has value as it relates to even just cost savings, right? Of 10,000 new employees that you bring in temporary every year, and training, those sorts of things.
Can we assume that clients that use Jumpmind have better employee retention?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's one of the keys. When you give an associate the tools where they feel like they can be satisfied in their job, they can be, because everybody at the end of the day wants to be effective. Like you want to do a good job, but you're hampered by the technology. So you give someone the tools where they can do the job in a good way, in the way that they want to. They're more satisfied, and obviously satisfied people are more likely to stick around than those that aren't.
That's awesome.
That really drives the employee experience, right? And we can definitely see that approach take effect. I'm kind of curious about making it easy, right? The buy one, get one free phenomenon meets buy now, pay later. And I'm doing a return. where's the other half? That's always going to be a very interesting problem. So those are different trends that we're seeing in the marketplace for this holiday season. What's different? What's new and different on promotions? And what are you hearing from other retailers that's working?
Yeah, I think promotions is one, or promotional capabilities is really an interesting one, because it's been, in my view, pretty stale for quite a while. I think you go to a mall and you see most of the mall retailers having buy one, get one 50% off, or 20% off the entire store, all those sorts of things. And I think the reality isn't that somebody isn't more creative, like these retailers don't have more creative people in their marketing teams and their pricing teams to come up with some things that would really pull you in the door. I think the reality is that they all run the same old legacy tech. There's a lot of old ERP that has historically managed all of the pricing and promotion for these stores, and it's limited in its flexibility, to create them, to execute them in store, those sorts of things. So what we're seeing as we talk to clients about what do they want to do, it's like we want to experiment more. We want to try some different things. One of the ones that I always think of, like if I was a footwear retailer, buy 2 pairs of shoes, get socks at 3 for $15, 4 for $12, 5 for $10. Makes a lot of sense. But that's a mix of 2 different promotional types that historically you just can't execute and operate. So we look at it like, hey, there's got to be a way to give the tools to those folks that want to be able to experiment and try new things and differentiate compared to what their neighbor's doing in a mall.
That's very cool. That's very cool.
Yeah, and the A/B testing on that's got to be fun, right? You can actually see that right away. I mean, given the analytics off the POS today, the POS device is an important signal that's out there. So we're here with Joe Corbin, CEO of Jumpmind. Thank you so much for getting some insights as to what's happening in the holiday season and what retail trends and technology trends are about pop up pre-NRF. So
thank you, Joe.
Yeah,
thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah,
wow.
When you can leverage technology to delight your stakeholders in real time, in person, it doesn't get better than that. Okay,
right. That's like a tech for good. Yeah.
It's a privilege and an honor for us to have Marga Hoek, 3-time CEO, chair, and board member, and author of Tech for Good: Imagine Solving World's Greatest Challenges, a book that just came out this month. Due to her vision, purpose-driven leadership, Marga has gained recognition over the years as a global thought leader on sustainable business and capital. Marga is a multi-Golden Award best-selling author of trailblazing titles like The New Economy Business and The Traditional Dollar Shift. Fortune, Ray, listen to this. Fortune praised The Traditional Dollar Shift, which highlights opportunities in UN's global hold for business as required reading. Recognized by Thinkers 50 for Marga's global management thinking, Marga coined the slogan "Business for Good." This is in 2014, nearly 10 years ago.
Yes.
Early adopter.
To emphasize her mission to make business for good the norm rather than the exception. You can follow Marga on Twitter at MargaHoek. Welcome, Marga, to DisrupTV.
Thank you. Thanks for the great intro. It makes me almost shy.
I had to actually shorten it because we only have 20 minutes. Yeah, you've done a lot. You've done a lot.
But Marga, we're excited to have you here. Let's really dive down into what does Tech for Good mean today, and what is your vision for where we actually, manage this future with advanced and exponential technologies?
Yeah. I mean, nowadays, it's a special moment in time, huh? On the one hand, we have COP28 in Dubai. On the other hand, around the world, we have a lot of debate about technology, and that debate is kind of dominated by all the bad things it can do, all the fears we have around it, or optimization potential that it has, like in the discussion just before, which is important. But what is much more important, I think, is that technology can actually improve our world. It can actually contribute to solving our world's greatest challenges, like biodiversity loss, like climate change, like poverty, inequality, lack of access to education, and so on and so forth. We can do things we actually couldn't do before in places we couldn't reach before. So the potential is huge. And for that reason, I wanted to write this book, Tech for Good, as to, inspire people to think more about well, if you will, the upside of technology and how we can really make it a force for good. And having said that, there's a reason for business also to engage other than what I just said, because in the end, engaging with both technology and sustainability offers huge business opportunities.
Yes.
Unlocks new markets, brings solutions to the world where there's a great need. So it's also a business opportunity.
You have written and you've talked about the fourth industrial revolution and the technologies that exist within this era. Can you help us better understand what is fourth industrial revolution and your point of view in terms of how we can best utilize technology for betterment of society?
Yeah, thanks for that question. Good question. Well, let's summarize the first three industrial revolutions because probably not everybody knows.
We weren't all here.
In the 18th century with coal, which was the biggest transformation. And for the first time, we could produce stuff. Then we went to the second industrial revolution with electricity, oil and gas, combustion engine, mass production, and mass transportation around the world. And the 20th century brought the digitalization. So all of a sudden, everybody was connected online, digitally around the world. Then now we are, just tiptoeing over the threshold of the fourth industrial revolution. And what is important is, as opposed to former industrial revolutions that had only one or two big things, although they were very transformative and changed our world, this revolution is, you could say, like a huge toolkit. It has both physical technologies and digital technologies, and they can blend. So for the first time, it's a blending of the physical and the digital. That's a huge change. It's in a way more complex because, like in the book, I describe 8 technology groups. I mean, that's so much more than we had to be, with one big inventions.
Sure.
And within those groups, you have all kinds of varieties. And in the fourth industrial revolution, we'll transform manufacturing like we did with the first and the second, because now all of a sudden we can apply things to manufacturing and to all other things. So the transformative power of the combination of all these technologies is huge.
That's amazing.
No.
And it will drive efficiency, productivity, and hopefully joy and happiness, because it may be, as you described, 8 different categories. Do you envision that, our children will have colleagues that are machines? They're working in environments where there's smart robots and software and algorithms, and is your manager someday just a piece of software? Yeah, guiding you. I mean, it's the combinatorial effect of this,
Exactly.
as you said, is really astounding.
It's literally going to be everywhere.
Yeah.
And always.
Always.
And of course, as you say, will your colleague be a robot? I mean, we all make these jokes, of course.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to focus on what is the outcome we want. I mean, it strikes me that when you look at the debate, people blame technology and they fear technology, but actually we should blame and fear ourselves, huh?
Right.
Because it's people that are behind technologies. We make the decisions how to apply it.
Yeah, that's right.
It
The founder of my company actually often says technology is neither good or bad. It's how people use it. Yeah.
It's literally my book. Technology itself is neutral. We give meaning to it.
Right.
Yes, and always blame the human. No, just kidding. That's for the robot.
Oh, that came out strong, right?
No, but this is important, right? We're getting more and more access to whole new advanced technologies. Some of them in the tech world as we know it from an IT or ICT side of the world, sometimes even from the bio side of the world in terms of the capabilities that we're able to do. And we're seeing that convergence of different sets of disciplines coming together. How can we actually figure out where a business can actually accelerate access to those types of technologies, especially in a way that they weren't able to do before?
Well, can I add one thing then, Ray? With the objective to do something good with it.
Yes, with something good.
Yeah.
Tech for good.
So, because if that, yeah. Thank you there, Vala. Because, if you want to do that with your company as a person, as whomever, wherever, the important thing is to start with the objective, the outcome. So to what of the challenges, and I work a lot with the Sustainable Development Goals, and that's not that complicated. It's 17 concrete challenges we have in the world, like poverty, climate change, those things. If you start with those challenges in mind, and many companies do that nowadays, what do you want to contribute to? Not only mitigating negative impact, but what do you want to contribute to? If you start thinking from the end goal back, so to say, and then think, okay, and what can technology do to help me here? So, for instance, if you want to impact food loss and waste in a positive way, and let's take the first part, the food loss, because then we're talking about developing countries and, South America, Africa, and all those countries where people are struggling to have a harvest, so to say. If you want to have a positive impact on that, then you can come up with a combination of AI and data, with robotics, with algorithms, so that you warn them in time when there's storms coming, so that you tell them exactly when and how to give the water, etc., etc. It's a combination of tools, and the outcome is a much bigger harvest and a much continuous flow of agricultural success. And that applies to whatever kind of business case you choose.
Sure.
Right. And that could be industry innovation. It could be, whether you want clean water. So you're taking down any of the elements of the SDGs. You can actually apply that to get to that level of good. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Marga, you mentioned AI in your answer, and about a year ago, majority of the world opened their eyes to a particular class of machine learning called generative AI.
Yeah.
And that was, OpenAI. That was an 8-year-old company that most people didn't know about. But last October, in about 60 days, 100 million people knew about OpenAI and ChatGPT. Last week, I heard Elon Musk in an interview state that he believes AI has potential danger more so than nuclear bombs. So he has a lot of a more conservative view in terms of the benefits of AI, unless we are more mindful, understanding its potential impact. You believe that technology can enhance our future. So can you talk about a positive outlook as to how technologies like generative AI, like ChatGPT, can be tech for good?
Yeah, of course. And if Elon Musk says that, he's talking about the people behind technology, huh?
Sure.
And, trust in technology is high. So people trust algorithms more than their neighbors, so to say. But the trust in the intentions of technology and the people behind it is at an all-time low. And that's because, people do bad things with technology. But again, your colleague just said, blame always the humans. And that's correct. The people that are behind it. Yeah, I remember that.
Blame the human. Blame the human.
Humans. But let's talk a little bit about the good AI can do. So it's a system with which we can gather huge amounts of data, much more than any group of people could do, analyze it super quickly, and draw conclusions and apply those conclusions. So what good can we do? We can, for instance, diagnose illness super quick and then save a lot of people as a consequence. We can analyze data on our ecosystem and intervene much quicker if deforestation is happening too quickly. If loss of biodiversity is happening somewhere, we can interfere much quicker.
Sure.
We can improve agriculture, what we just talked about. We can improve education. All these fields, AI and data can do a huge amount of good. And on top of that, I talked about the toolkit of technologies, and AI and data is a foundational technology. It's like the ground you build your house on. So it's needed for a lot of applications to be able to perform. Foundational. So that is what we can do with it. But we have to put our minds to what we want the outcome to be. Sure. And focus on that. And if you look at the whole field of rules and regulation, which is far too slow, that the pace is so much slower than the pace of technology, that it's like looking behind you, see, oh, well, that was a bad run. Yeah, but they already have passed, kind of thing. But it has to focus more on the do no harm focus, where everything's focused on to, do good. have a positive impact, because now often those positive impact initiatives are being held behind or are hindered because of wrong legislation.
Sure.
So, Marga, maybe the point here is we should have AI write regulation in real time to counter the regulations that they're going against, to see what happens. But that's a great example of what might happen if, as we pair humans with machines, right? You talk about 4 R's in terms of, robotics, and you talk about other areas in terms of like autonomous vehicles and drones and these items, these actually equipment and technologies replacing humans, right? We see that as well with like these industrial robots that have balance and shape and can move. So what is
but
your
there
suggestion?
again, Ray, sorry to interrupt you, but there again, about the robots replacing us, there's a lot of things we as humans don't want to do.
True.
Do you want to go into the battlefield and rescue somebody? And
I want the glory. No, I'm kidding. My wife might not, but yes, I do want the glory.
Wrong example to the wrong person, I think. But anyway,
No, but yeah.
do you want to go during COVID? Do you want to, check out hospitals and houses if they're contaminated? Do you want to do the very dirty work if something's collapsed? Do you want to?
Oh my God, there'll be no more dirty jobs. What is our friend going to do?
So there's a lot of things that but being serious, a lot of things that are dangerous for people, or we don't want to do, or we can't do. So let's start with that instead of immediately thinking about ourselves, which kind of a bit of an egocentric, approach. Oh, I'm going to be replaced. I mean, 25% of all jobs for sure will be changed.
Okay.
And there was a recent calculation by World Economic Forum, which I found interesting, said, 85 million jobs will disappear. Well, then everybody goes like, oh dear, but 95 million will come back in return. So on average, there will be more jobs. I don't know.
So we need about 1 million robots, is what you're saying, I think.
You could say that. But jobs will definitely change radically, It's not going to be like it was.
It is, and we've got declining populations as well. As people age, you're going to need some of those.
Yeah, but I mean, listen, a quarter century ago, 25 years ago, or maybe 20 years ago, we didn't have cloud computing architects, social media managers, Uber drivers, drone operators, and we can go on. I bet you we can come up with 200 titles that didn't exist 20 years ago.
The futurists were in.
Yeah, you're right. With robo-taxis, you're right. Uber drivers will most likely, probably in the next 20 years, because you got to get to autonomy level probably 5 for robo-taxis to replace completely Uber drivers. But I think like an elevator operator is probably the only job I can think of that's completely disappeared due to technology. I don't see them anymore. So you have an optimistic view, again, that as technologies evolve, future of work will have job titles that don't exist today. And, if I'm a firefighter, yes, I'm going to have a drone as the first line of response, minimize the fire.
Yeah,
that's right. And then you walk in and help, rescue folks. And so it may be a hybrid environment where you de-risk your life because you don't want to be the first guy or gal going into a house that's burning or a building, but you'll have hopefully opportunity to minimize the risk using drone in this case. Your thoughts about future of work and jobs and new titles, and what do managers and business leaders need to think about when they're thinking about tech for good? Do they at the beginning need to make sure we're building technology that serves humanity for good? And also, are we able to adjust when we realize that what we thought was good maybe not as good as it can be?
That's a good point. Can I go into your last point?
Please.
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 Optimize. The whole debate, for instance, around climate change and reducing your negative footprint is about less bad. So we do a little bit less. Let's take an example. Let's take houses and buildings as an example. All around the world we have labels, and then you have to label down or label up. Whatever the system is to be a little bit less bad and reduce your footprint. In reality, what we can do now, when we build new houses or any other type of building, they have to be powerhouses, meaning they have to have a positive footprint, because it's not even experimental technology to make buildings that create energy with their walls, with their roofs, with their windows. So we have a surplus of renewable energy per building, providing the environment.
Sure.
And that's the minimum. That should be the bar, nothing less.
Sure.
And so technology should, in that sense, shift the debate and raise the bar all around.
Makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
we definitely hope that it does. And I think that's one of the things that's the premise of your book. You know, if you're a reader of this book and they are done reading it, what do you hope they get? Do you hope they take action? Do you hope they become active in terms of making this, you know, much more positive, or thinking about what their decisions are going to be? What do you see that in terms of, you know, reaching global goals?
Well, let me tell you, when I wrote the book, and it takes 3 years, you know, with all the research.
I know, it takes forever.
It's like,
To write a book.
that valley of death actually really exists. But then, you know, the most interesting thing as an author is when you finish the book, because then you can rise above your own book and, you know, come to some interesting thoughts, like what is now deep down the reason what I did it, and what do I hope that, to your question, Ray, that people take away from it. And then I realized, actually, this is a book of hope. Because
all books should be that.
Yeah.
Certainly, all nonfiction books should be that.
Yeah, doom and gloom around us, it just doesn't help.
Right.
And then I came up with the word, I'll show you one spread that people can see it. Then I came up with the word imagine, because I realized what I want is people to literally dare to imagine what we can do instead of dwelling on what we cannot do, because that simply doesn't help, and it makes nobody happy. So in the book, can you see that?
Yes.
Every
Yes.
chapter has a page with imagine.
Yep.
And in that page I write, and I hope that touches people's, not only people's minds, but also their souls and their hearts, what that specific technology can do. So for instance, with 3D printing, I found that, you know, our coral reefs, our beautiful coral reefs, are about to disappear over the next decade.
The plastic soup.
90% will be gone if we don't radically change things. I mean, we can weep and you know, be sorry for it. But hear this. We now have 3D printing with such high quality that we are actually able to repair our coral reefs. We can print coral reef, and by the whole ecosystem around it, plants and animals, is not recognized as artificial, is embraced as original, not saying that we should further destroy coral reefs, but we can, you know, regenerate our planet with it. I mean, that's amazing, isn't it? And that is true for so many of those technologies. Isn't that worth, you know, putting yourself and asking yourself to have a positive attitude? Is that not worth it? It is, I think.
It is definitely worth it. And we are here with Marga. We're here with Marga Hoek. More importantly, one of the things that you have are 75 use cases in that book. 75 examples of where you can take tech for good to the next level. And of course, we can pick up the book, but the book is only less than 11 days old. Thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on getting the book out the door. We're here. And of course, 3-time CEO, chair and board member and author of Tech for Good. Imagine solving the world's greatest challenges. Please follow her on Twitter or X, Marga, Hoek. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Marga.
So much. It was a great pleasure to join you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hope. And we always hope to have 8-time best-selling authors on our show, and sometimes our hope comes to fruition. Richard Horwath, author of Strategic, the skill to set direction, create advantage, and achieve executive excellence. Rich is founder and CEO of the Strategic Thinking Institute, where he's the strategy facilitator, advisor, and coach to executive leadership teams. Rich is New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestselling author of, listen to this, 8 books. You and I really need to step up our game on strategic. We are on strategic thinking and related. And rated the #1 keynote speaker on strategy and national events, including Society of Human Resources Management Strategy Conference. Rich has been described by Chief Executive Magazine as the world's foremost expert on strategic thinking. Rich has helped more than 250,000 people develop their strategic thinking and planning capabilities over the last 20 years in pursuit of his vision to teach the world to be strategic. Rich serves as professor of management at Lake Forest Graduate School of Management, where he was consistently ranked as top strategy professor by the students, the folks that matter most. Welcome, Rich, to DisrupTV.
Vala, Ray, thanks so much. It's great to be with you. And just to build on your idea of hope, hope is not a strategy, folks. Thinking is. So excited to talk to you both today.
Fantastic.
We're so excited to have you here. You know, your book came out early in November, and you know, it was just amazing the number of people that really thought, you know, this was so important to be able to think about disciplines around being strategic. Why did you write this book? Because the world is getting more complex, or because people need more simplicity, or they need more clarity? Like, what drove this? Because there are lots of strategy books.
Yeah, absolutely, Ray. Great point. So the first thing that we want to think about is, as a leader, are we able to take all the complexity, all the speed out there, and really come up with clarity around who we are, who we want to be, and how we're going to get to where we want to go? So the reason I wrote the book is really 70% of executives feel overwhelmed today by the amount of data, the amount of information that's coming at them each and every day. So really what I wanted to do was share with folks on a compass to help them navigate their business day in and day out. And that compass really involves 4 areas: strategy, leadership, organization, communication. And then with each of those areas, the last 10 years as I've done executive coaching, I've tried to create very practical tools, checklists, and techniques for folks to use day in and day out to really master those 4 areas. So again, the book really is a way for executives to clarify, to simplify their business in order to be successful.
It's like getting 4 separate books in one. I mean, it's pretty wild. So
And Rich, can you, because we have a wide range of folks that watch the show, from young entrepreneurs to senior executives, can you define strategy for us?
Yeah, Vala, thanks for asking that. You know, there's 91 different definitions floating around out there, according to the research. And in my research with about 500 different organizations, less than half, 44%, said that they have a common language for strategy. So a lot of the folks, to your point, that are out there probably are spending a lot of time inefficiently trying to get everybody on that proverbial same page. So the way I define strategy is really, it's that allocation of resources through a unique system of activity. We have to have some differentiation if we're talking about strategy in order to achieve our goal. So simply put, strategy is how you uniquely plan to achieve your goal.
Wow, very concise, very accurate. Thank you.
yeah,
That's great.
that's a great point. And not just along with strategy. I mean, people have different ways of thinking that they're being strategic. Like, think about all these people that attempt to develop strategy, and it's really not strategy. It's so tactical. It's like operational. It like barely gets you past the second quarter. I don't know. What are some of those mistakes people make, and how do they identify it when they realize, like, oh, that wasn't strategic? Like, I'm sure you have that thing with like.
So Ray, you're associating a time horizon when you say tactical, operational, strategic.
I could be wrong. I don't know. There's 91 definitions.
Yeah. Well, but is it a more long-term thinking when you're thinking about, when you use words like strategy versus words like tactical or operational? Can you provide some clarity in terms of, in your expert point of view, what is there a time horizon you should think about when you're thinking about resource allocation and meeting your objective?
Yes, Vala, you know, when I think about strategy, I use what I call the GHOST framework: goals, objectives, strategies, tactics. There's lots of other terms people throw around when they're planning, but those are the 4 oldest terms. You go back 2,500 years to Sun Tzu, the Chinese general philosopher, had the writings which became the book, The Art of War. Those are the foundational planning terms. So to your point, I don't necessarily equate them with a time horizon. Goals and objectives. So again, if we think about any plan, so it's the plan for your company, your sales team, maybe it's a plan for the food bank that you volunteer with on the weekend. You want to answer 2 questions. What are we trying to achieve, and how are we going to do it? So that GHOST framework, goals and objectives, answer what are you trying to achieve. The goal is generally what you're trying to achieve. Let's say climb a mountain. The objective is more specifically what you're trying to achieve. So maybe in that case, ascend 3,000 feet each day for 4 days to get that 12,000 foot summit. So objectives are smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound. a strategy and tactics that are answering that second question of a good plan. How are we going to get there? Strategy is general. So how are we going to get to that top? Do we go straight up? Do we zigzag? Do we go around the other side? And then the tactics are those specific tangible things that are going to help us get there. So again, that GHOST framework really answers those two questions. What are you trying to achieve? How are you going to do it? And to Ray's point, that's the biggest mistake people make, is they confuse strategy with aspirations such as goals. A lot of times you'll see strategy is to be number one in the market, to be the premier provider of service X. Those aren't strategies. Those are goals. So we got to understand the answers to those two questions.
And you're very clear in the book. You say it's not an aspiration, it's not a best practice, and it's not being cautious, which is really, really powerful in terms of defining that. So
yeah, thanks, Ray. And to that point, the reason we want to do that is because 70% of employees say that their senior leadership has too many priorities and they don't kill bad initiatives fast enough. So if that's the case, if we don't have strategy, we don't have priorities, then we don't have the ability to make trade-offs. And, Ray, in your book, one of the chapters I love was on decision velocity. And that's something I see all the time in my work, is people not able to accelerate their decision making because they haven't planned out a strategy that everybody agrees on and everybody understands. So again, if you're going to increase decision velocity, like you talk about in your book, we've got to have a strategy in place that acts as those guardrails or that filter for opportunities.
This is perhaps the first time an 8-time best-selling author, Ray, is referencing your book. This is pretty awesome.
It's a great book.
That's so cool. That's so cool. So when I listen, Rich, when I listen to you, I think about strategic excellence. To me, it feels like this is not hygiene. This is health. And so you have to have a regimen that allows you to get fit in order to be able to achieve strategic excellence. And you talk about strategic fitness system. Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, Val, that's a great point. So, when you look at the average CEO exercises 45 minutes a day, at least 5 days a week. So that's pretty impressive, really, when you think about the schedules that the CEOs have. 45 minutes a day on average, 5 or 6 days a week. That's great. But then let's think about how much time are they spending developing their strategic fitness? So again, if we play the guitar once a year, if we play golf once a year, we're going to be terrible at those things. But a lot of people say, well, we're going to do strategy once a year, and then we're going to be on that activity treadmill the rest of the 11 and a half months until we have to pull the plan back out. That doesn't work. We've got to be strategic day in and day out. We've got to turn strategy from what's typically a birthday, where it happens once a year, there's a lot of signage and fanfare, then it goes away. So really what I'm advocating with the strategic fitness system is, hey, on a regular basis, think about 3 A's. Acumen. What's the new insight here that's going to create new value for our customers? The second A, allocation. How are you going to configure your resources, your time, your people, your budget in order to be successful? And then that third A is action. What's the priority that's going to keep your team on track this year so they're not bouncing around like a bumper car at the carnival from one thing to the next?
Is that why you're a prolific writer? I mean, I try to figure out what inspires someone to write 8 books. 8 books. Is the writing, is the process? I know, I read to improve my writing. I write to improve my thinking. Are you a prolific writer because you're trying to maintain that lack of thought leadership fitness as the #1 strategic thinker in the world? What motivates you to write excellent books at such volume?
Yeah.
Well, Vala, I think to your point, all of us who write, and you both write as well, are and great writers. It's about reading also, right? We have to get inspired. We have to be out reading. We have to be talking to people, getting ideas. Vala, in your book, Boundless, you talk about the importance of killing silos, right? And I'm a big believer in that as well, because the big issue I'm seeing today in many organizations is a lack of collaboration, intentional collaboration. And maybe that happened because of everybody being virtual for a year or so. But the reality is great leaders have to be intentional about collaboration. That's the way that we span the silos, Vala, that you talk about in your book. So I'm a big believer that, look, if you're going to be prolific in anything, you've got to study other people. You've got to always have a humble mindset and always understand that there's things that we can learn to get better.
Ray, Rich is quickly becoming our favorite guest.
I know. I mean,
when are you coming back to Disrupt? Go ahead. Sorry, Ray.
I mean,
You're very
he's got
kind.
the
You're
flow
very
down. He's got that in.
You're very
It
kind.
actually makes me wonder, right? Like, those management gurus of the 50s, they were linear thinkers, right? They
Yes.
didn't get, I mean, everything was waterfall. Like it was like a straight line flow. And today it's just about managing the chaos and orchestrating together. And one of the things that you talk about is really, that need to get to, and situational awareness, right? How do we get there? It's very underappreciated. It's not something that's there. Can leaders do that? And is that different? And I kind of know the answer, but just people would say, is that different from multitasking or information overload? So how do you help people with managing situational awareness?
Yeah. So the first thing we have to do is stop judging. Put down the gavel and stop considering everything is good or bad, positive or negative. Because the reality is we waste so much time trying to judge things as good or bad, judging people as good or bad, judging meetings as good or bad. It's a complete waste of time. We need to go into every conversation, every interaction with an explorer's mindset. I'm here to discover things that I don't know today. It's not about staying against the shore like the adage says. It's about going perpendicular. You can't go perpendicular if you walk into the room, think you know everything, judge everybody in 5 seconds, and then walk away saying, yeah, that's exactly what I expected it to be. So we've got to come in with a blank slate, and we've got to come in with a notebook or an app on our phone, and we got to walk out of every interaction jotting down, not just thinking about, but jotting down, what did I take away in that interaction? What was my learning? And I'm a big believer in scoring every interaction that we're in 0 to 3. 0 was zero value, 3 was high value. And at the end of the week, add those up. Start taking the things that are 0 value and pull those off your calendar with a chainsaw. Hack those off and start putting things on that are more 3s.
So it's not about good or bad. It's about high value, low value.
Absolutely. I think today, too often, Ray, it's a great point. Too often we're thinking about activity and not value. And I do, even though we're evolving as an economy, as a marketplace, we still spend too much time on activity and not enough time on thinking. If it was up to me, I would replace the phrase "fail fast" with "think first," because I think too often we're so reactionary. People aren't thinking. We're reacting to text. We're reacting to social media. We're not stepping back and thinking, "What's my perspective on
this?" That's an awesome think first. I realized that with long form writing. I write, 60, 70 articles a year for a publication called ZDNet. And I find a lot of my writing for short form is reflexive in nature.
Yep.
I hear news, ChatGPT, XYZ, and then I respond to it.
Sure.
Where with long form, with a book, it's more reflective.
Yep.
It's a deeper, or at least an attempt for deeper understanding.
Yeah.
And so it does enhance my situational awareness. And by the way, you referenced meeting, and one of the shocking stats that you write about is 85% of senior executives think that meetings is not a good use of their time. And these are senior executives that are supposed to be role models for making sure they're adding value to the best of their abilities. And I guess part of the answer was not only scoring, but also approaching meetings with a beginner's mindset, where you are in a mode of exploring, and the best ideas should win, not the best titles. So when reading your book and listening to you, it feels like you can teach strategy at any age. You don't have to. It's not something that you need 15 years of experience to be a strategic thinker. Mm-hmm. You could follow your blueprint and your formula and learn about the power of strategy at any age. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, absolutely, Vala. The reality is everybody out there listening and watching is a strategist, because you think about it, strategy is the intelligent allocation of your resources, your time, your talent, and any budget. We all have time and talent. How you spend that each week dictates whether you're tactical or strategic. And here's a newsflash. Nobody ever got promoted saying, she's highly tactical. Let's move her up to senior vice president level. That's not going to happen.
I've never heard that.
Right, you never heard that.
25 years of work. I've never heard that.
She or he would make a great COO.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, to your point, Vala, yes, I think anybody can be strategic. It's just creating the awareness and then the hunger to jot down our insights. I define an insight as a learning that leads to new value. The best companies I'm working with today have accountability for insights at every level of the organization, which means they're building that strategic thinking capability at every level, because strategic thinking is simply the generation of insights on a regular basis that leads to advantage. So again, if you want to create a true learning organization, create accountability for insights, share those insights internally, and you're going to definitely increase people's capabilities in that area.
And none of this is to minimize the importance of quality tactical execution, quality operational. In other words, if you're not really good at doing the small work, you're not going to get the opportunity to do the big work. Is that fair? I mean, you know, and most, I'm guessing, and I'm going to ask you, I'm assuming that folks that are excellent at strategy through their career are also excellent at doing tactical and operational assignments. Fair to say?
Yeah, Vala, you know, you go back to Porter, right, out of Harvard Business School,
yeah.
Competitive Advantage, Competitive Strategy. He talks about the difference between operational effectiveness and strategy. And operational effectiveness is basically running the same race as your competitor, only trying to run a little faster. Strategy is actually designing a different path to run on. So to your point, yes, we want to be strong operationally and tactically because we need to get the fundamental things done. Strategy is really about how are you going to separate yourself from the competition, which might be internal competition, external competition. It might be the status quo. So again, there's lots of different types of competition, but anytime we're talking about strategy, there's some element of competition. That's what separates that from operational effectiveness.
My favorite part, and I know we're running out of time, was really part 4, the communication fitness piece. There was a lot of soft skills that leaders should be learning. And, you know, in collaboration, I mean, you talked about the need for enhancing collaboration, having a facilitation framework. But check this out, Vala. Trailblazers was listed in there.
Every business leader should have a copy of Strategic on their desk. So thank you so much for expanding our mind. Thank you, Rich.
Hey, thanks a lot for
so
being
much
on the show. We're so excited to have you, and congratulations on the book. Rich Horwath, 8th book, author of Strategic, the skill to set directions, create advantage, and achieve executive excellence. Follow him at Rich Horwath on Twitter, or X, as you call it. So, see ya. Happy
Thank you,
Friday.
Rich.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you. Where did that hour go? Why does it feel like we only had 5-minute conversation with like these big brains that come and expand our minds? Ray, try to summarize the last hour for us, please.
Yeah, you know, the big part when we kicked off with Joe was really thinking about what was going on with what's happening with retail, right? And, you know, point of sale is really where the action is. That's the interaction point. That's what's going on. And we noticed that it's getting much more human, it's much more humanized. But more importantly, the ability to actually improve outcomes, improve those experiences, that's really where people are headed. And especially given that retail's made a comeback, not just on the commerce side, but in-store experiences.
Sure.
Marga actually helped us think about what was going on with tech for good. We've got to put these technologies to play so that we're actually, you know, thinking about other outcomes and other experiences that are beyond just profit. And I think she was trying to find, you know, the technology is not the issue. It's always coming down to the individual on the other end using that technology and how to make that much more useful. And of course, what we learned from Rich is really that's notion of strategy and having a strategic fitness system, or being able to think in a longer term, not just long term, but more value oriented way, is really what's going to be driving the next set of leaders in terms of how they think about strategy.
Thank you. That's an excellent summary. And yeah, we could have talked to each guest for the entire hour, so that was fantastic. Next week, which is episode 346. We are with John Reed, co-founder of Diginomica, one of our favorite guests. I think he's first ballot Hall of Fame Disrupt inductee, John Reed. We have Wendy Lushgold and Lisa McCarthy, co-founder of the Fast Forward Group and the authors of forthcoming book, Fast Forward, 5 Power Principles to Create the Life You Want in Just 1 year. 1 year. That's pretty cool. And we'll have a surprise segment where we'll talk about it next week. But if it's Friday, it's DisrupTV. Go ahead, Ray.
Oh, no, it's a secret segment, but you'll all enjoy. So. So
yeah, I think you'll enjoy quite a bit. We're having a great time creating the last segment for what will be the last show for 2023 next week. So we look forward to tuning in with you next week, and then we'll shed some light about what you can expect in 2024 from DisrupTV as well. Again, if it's Friday, it's DisrupTV. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next Friday. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.